Okay. Any questions on what we've covered so far?
Just a little quickie.
Go on.
Regarding the pole.
Yes.
One of the first things I ever made when I became a flood warden was a pole.
Yep.
Out of a redundant squeegee mop handle because
Yep.
it was lightweight aluminium alloy. I put markings on there so I know how deep the water
Brilliant.
is. But because I wear my wellies inside my waterproofs, so
Yes.
that if it's pouring with rain, it doesn't fill your wellies up.
Yep.
I have a red band on there so that if it ever reaches the red band, I don't go into it because
Yeah.
I know at that point it's going to fill my wellies.
That's perfect, isn't
So
it?
it's a very simple thing,
Yeah.
but very useful.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's anything that we can do as an early guide for us to make sure that we're not putting ourselves at that additional risk. We don't want to become the victim. So we were talking earlier about the years ago when the fire service turned up to one of the awful tragedies in this area where the car got taken and it was pinned up against a bridge, was it? I've heard bits about it over.
It was nationwide. It was on the
Sure.
news, and it came down. Then it got pinned underneath there was a little sort of footbridge
Yep.
further down, and it got stuck under that.
Yeah. So the fire service at the time, when they turned up, they wouldn't have been equipped for that, and they would have been told that no, you are not allowed to go in and basically help right there, because they would have classed that as a life that was already lost. So they would have needed other teams to arrive before any teams could have been committed. So, I mean, unfortunately, we are governed quite strictly by regulation, and that does mean that a lot more of us live, but it does mean that sometimes it looks like we're not doing anything when we turn up, whereas quite often what the crews are doing is setting up safe systems of work to ensure that we're not just throwing victims in. So that's what we use.
The one that you want to use.
So
the cheapest chips.
The advantage of this, it is tall, but it means that we've got another thing that we can use for. Can you hold that and I'll pull you in? So you've got kind of 2 in 1 there. We do have to be careful if we're pulling somebody else in, because the forces of the water, if we don't have a good firm stance, if we're not on solid ground, we could end up being pulled in. So
weight on the back foot.
Yeah. So weight back, getting low, and trying to pull back. I mean, quite often you're going to give them something that they can hold easier, and we're going to be pulling from this side. But you have to remember, if you're using something like this, there are times where I have to let go, because they're not going to let go, because you've given them this, and it's like, right, this is the thing that's now going to save me. I'm going to hold on to this for as long as I can, and they will pull you in quite happily, because
you can walk with that though as well, so you can walk them down to somewhere safe.
Yeah.
So avoid Mrs. Miggins. the flow's going this way. Simon's got me on the bank. If it's too much for Simon and he thinks I'm being pulled in, he can walk me down.
I can walk you down. I also
naturally pendulum in
can
to
flow
the side, as long as it's safe there. So you're not going to let anybody into a danger zone.
So I'm not necessarily pulling him straight towards me.
It's just
I can
manoeuvred me.
So these I mean, it's advanced techniques, as it were. But if we can share anything with you that could help you rescue somebody, that's what we're here to do. So, I mean, we can do this with the lines as well. So we're not necessarily pulling straight back in. Sometimes you're just holding that line and letting the water flow pull them round. So it's just something to bear in mind, and we'll have a quick look at that outside.
Well, can I just make a comment about the treatment of hypothermia?
Yep.
I mean, technically there's 4 clinical stages of hypothermia. We'll only ever really see the first one. It's, as far as we're concerned, the thing you don't do is you don't rub their arms and rub their hands and try and warm them up that way. because that'll pull blood out of the core and that'll reduce the core temperature, which is worse. So it's more passive cooling unless you've got medical resources. Dry them off, cover them with a blanket and a silver sheet, put a hat on. If they can, walk around to get the muscles going to warm them up. But basically it's passive cooling, passive warming for out of hospital treatment of hypothermia.
Right.
Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant.
So even with things like that, the fire service, we've had these like silver sheets for a long time. It's only within, I think, the last 2 years that they bothered to buy the silver beanies, and it's something that is so cheap and so easy. But it was just something it was just never really thought of before. And then somebody said, "Well, there's these on the market. Should we get a few of those?" So now we carry those in all of our trauma kits. I mean, our first aid kits are a big rucksack like this, because obviously we deliver oxygen and we have to treat mass bleed. So there's lots and lots of different bits within our kit, but something as simple as a little tin foil beanie, it's we can save lives that way. It's again, something that's very, very cheap, but just hadn't been thought of.
I just wanted this question on electrical.
Go on.
What the risk of that is. So is it safe to assume that because the body of water is so big, there isn't an electrical risk, or if we're in homes and stuff, is there a risk of electrocution?
The likelihood of electrocution, so things basically go to earth, and all of the electric should have tripped if you've got that body of water in there. In a fire situation, we've got a danger of the electrics not being tripped and the electrics being live, but we generally don't count the electrics being live in a flooded environment. We can't guarantee that, but the amount of water there and the amount of electricity there, the electricity is minuscule compared to the amount of water, so it's spread over that, dissipated over that larger area.
I thought, because you touched on waders, and I've done a bit of training jumping into swimming pools already.
Yes.
And we're not going to be wearing waders, but we might have to rescue someone in those waders, so I just thought it would be useful to know. When you do flood your waders, and I'm sure you guys know this, but your feet float up because they trap air, so, and your immediate reaction is to try and swim and get your feet down, but that just pushes your head under. So if we were rescuing, you want to tell someone to relax and just bend your body and let your feet float, and you'll then keep your head above water.
Yeah. So with our kit, the big boil in the bag suits that we wear, one of the things that we have to remember to do is burp the suit. So that is, because we're sealed here and we're sealed here, we have to let all that air out, because otherwise you end up with the phenomenon that you've talked about, that you get into the water, you're lying on your back, all the air goes to your feet, and so all the buoyancy is at the wrong end.
They are dry suits as well, not wet suits. So they're supposed to keep us dry, aren't they?
They keep us totally dry in theory on the inside.
But not all the time.
Not all the time. Okay, so just we'll quickly talk about the sort of phases of flooding: pre-flood, flash flood, expansion, and recovery, because it's something that is pertinent to the area. So pre-flood is what we are in now. There's going to be a flood here, we know that, but now is the time that we train, we learn, we find out where to get our information from. So I presume most of you have the Environment Agency early alerts for your properties. So we go out and we sort of talk to people as well. Then we go into the flash flood when the heavens open and the rain comes in, and that's when the majority of quick recoveries take place. So it's sort of like for yourselves, for other agencies, for the fire service, that sort of racing out and doing sort of like all the hero work and going out, pulling people out quickly, and off we go.
Which we're not supposed to do, I can say.
As wardens, so there's multiple agencies about, so that the fire service will go out. We've got the heart team from the ambulance. A lot of them are equipped with the same kit as we carry, and there's SARAID, SARA, yeah, So there's lots of different agencies that come out when we get these flash floods, and they will assist, and most of them have quite nice kit. Most of the private agencies have much better kit than we have, which is nice, but it means it's keeping them safe, hopefully. So then we go into the expansion, where the water's there and it starts to expand over large areas. And you sort of see all the pictures from sort of like Gloucester floods, where it's taken up large areas, large expanses, and that's where we start moving to the door to door. And whether as wardens you might be involved in the sort of drier areas, making sure that certain persons that are still in their properties, whether they've got food, whether they've got all the medicines that they need. You might be involved with something like that, and a lot of local organisations will help out with that sort of thing. If it involves getting in the water, then other agencies will take that on, but it may well be that you have the local knowledge and we come to you to find that information. And then we go to the recovery phase. So the water gradually subsides, it finds its way into the watercourses and away. And that's again one of the really dangerous phases. So that is generally the council then comes in for the clean-up, and all the utility companies are trying to rebuild all their systems to make everything safe. And that is again a very, very dangerous time, because you've got all those contaminants all built up everywhere, and lots of destruction. So we'll just quickly sort of flick through. So the pre-flood, evacuation is better than rescue. So Paul was saying about the school, and perhaps they're evacuating too early, which is bringing parents in. But they've thought about these things, and so in theory they know when they should be making those calls to get people in so that they can get their children away from the schools. Because if we can evacuate them out before it's too late, it then means that we're not having to go in and rescue them. So the flash flood, I don't know how well our pictures show here. So this is Boscastle. So this may well have been a place that didn't have any weirs, and now they've got this water pouring over the front here, and that will be causing some form of recirculation, so it will pull you towards that. So it's just something to be aware of. Even if you don't think you've got any of these hydraulics, they will happen when we're looking at the flash floods. So the water can be very quick, it can appear very quickly, and it could be very high velocity water. So that means lots and lots of force, and we're talking about lots and lots of rescues. So more areas, farmers' fields, a road going off into a farm field. Again, we've created a weir. In this one on my pictures, you can actually see all the things that you would see around a normal weir, with all the sort of the boil line occurring around here. You've got this tow back and the outwash, and you can actually see that, and that's just in a farmer's field. So expansion stage, we're losing the land, where lots of agencies have then had time to mobilise. There are various organisations that can stand up, but it takes them maybe 48 hours to get people back from wherever they are, to be able to assist in that. But obviously fire service will be involved at this stage. So now we're not rescuing people as such, we're going in and seeing whether people are better left where they are, or whether we need to do rescue evacuations. So that's one of the lovely pictures of, and
Sorry, sir.
yeah. So, and this is one of the things that it's useful for local knowledge, because you will know from previous experience which roads you can get in and out on, whereas we wouldn't necessarily have that information. So if you are asking for emergency service help for whatever you're doing, if you've got that local knowledge and can pass it on to the control rooms, most of those people will pass that on to crews to assist them on their way in. with the sort of paramedic side, they will come from much further afield than the fire services generally, because you'll normally get a local fire service will attend, whereas the paramedics, I mean, even when we're calling for paramedics in the centre of Bath, they're like, oh yeah, we've come out of Frome today, couldn't find this place for ages, and they rely on their sat navs, and the sat navs don't give them the right information when all the roads are flooded. So it's just something, if you can pass on any of that information, that's really beneficial to any of the services that are attending. So then we're heading into the recovery phase. So we've got the pictures of roads collapsed there. The bottom picture is basically that all of that pavement is covered in sort of brown sludge. And again, we're getting back to more casualties through slips, trips and falls, but also the contaminants in that is disgusting. So another picture of Boscastle, the devastation. So that's after the waters have started to subside. Yeah, that was a proper, it came from nowhere, came right up and then caused its devastation and then sort of disappeared away again. Talking about our rescue options then. So casualties in water, we follow sort of a hierarchy. So talk, reach, throw, and then we go into row, go, helicopter. So talk, reach, throw, they're circled, and there's a couple of reasons for that. And then the row, go and helicopter, those are things that sort of more specialist agencies are going to perform. So row is basically us deploying rafts or boats, so we're going to put in things on top of the water and we'll be on those to go and rescue people. Go is us getting into the water and wading or swimming to people to rescue them. And then if it's beyond those, then we're looking at helicopters. So talk, reach, throw, these we term conditional rescues. So they're conditional on the casualty's help. So I can say to somebody in the water, swimmer, swim to me, swim to me. And that might give them the impetus. They might have been in the water for quite a while and they might be very, very tired and cold, and just having that instruction, telling them what to do, and the hope they'll dig their last reserves to get to you. So it may well be that I don't need to do anything because they'll do all the work and they'll come to me with that guidance. So the next thing, we have the reach rescue. So showing you just with a pole, reaching out to somebody, with a stick, reaching out to somebody. We do need to be careful that we're not dragged in, but the reach rescue, again, they need to be able to hold it, and they also have to be willing to hold it. So obviously we go to a variety of incidents, whereas here we're talking more about the flood side of things. So in the flood side of things, they're more likely to be willing to assist you. So after the reach rescue, we've got our throw rescue, and that's what we'll do outside with you. And we'll show you the various techniques that we use, and just some ideas to help you and to keep you safe. Okay?
Can I just have a little word, because you'll probably go off after that, but just to say thank you very much. It's been really helpful, I think.
Really good.
I just wanted to say a couple of things though about what you are and not allowed to do as volunteers, because we're not supposed to be rescuing people.
No, I realise that, yeah.
Our whole flood plan is predicated on preparedness. So the idea is that we make sure when we get those alerts that all the people that are in our patch have got their boards up, have moved their cars and are safe. And that's your job. Your job isn't really to be out wading about in the water. Now, having said that, I know we do. But all the equipment we've got has been to prevent us for instance, it wouldn't give us wellies above a certain height because it encouraged people to go out in the you know, too high level of water. So it's all for that reason. I think the walking poles, I like the idea of those, don't you?
I do, yes.
I really do.
I think if you're going through any water, there's
Yeah,
a must
because-
really.
Eventually we do go through water, but I just want to make it really clear that
Yeah.
you're not expected to be rescuing people who are out and about. That's when we call. I
Yeah.
now know that we call here. This is the first time in 10 years somebody said to me, ring here. And that was at the meeting I had on Monday. And that was the first time, because we've always tried 999. And honestly, it's so difficult for people to get to us because of the road flooding. We're often just on our own, aren't we?
So with 999, that will go through to our control, and the control should then mobilise the people here. So if there's nobody actually on station, they've all got pagers and they'll be alerted to come here to get their kits. They'll be told we've got a water rescue and it's within the capabilities of this station. So can you come to the station, get your kit and get to this address? This is the information we've got. We've been told that the roads, don't use this road and don't use this road because they're flooded. So try to come in from here, and they are just downstream of the co-op on River Right.
Well, the problem is that it floods out there.
It does, yes.
Quite-
Yeah.
Quite
Yeah.
exactly.
So we would
So
come.
the best thing that used to happen, and this happened for a few times, was that they would be on station here,
Yes.
and then
They
they
do
could
get
come
called
out
in to
to
sit
us.
on station.
So
yeah.
sometimes they
But
do.
they're
sometimes
not
they get
controlled.
taken to Bedminster.
Yeah.
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 Anyway, I mean, I think the fire service has been fine, actually, for the most part. I won't go into all the details now, but the problem we have is getting the police out to close roads.
Okay.
You know, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we might try and have a repeat of something like this with the police, because I think it's been so
It's
useful
been brilliant.
as
Good.
to how we link in and where we dovetail.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because of preparedness, I don't think we'll be ever rescuing residents. But
No,
what we get
it's just if you come
every
across
time
anybody, isn't it?
Yeah.
Somebody thinks they can drive their car through it.
Yeah.
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 The cars are
Obviously, you can leave that to these guys.
Yeah.
Call those
Yeah.
in,
If they
but
can
it would be a
come.
999 call.
Yeah.
Because they can set the pages off straight
Yes.
away.
So-
So the guys.
So yeah, the advantage of the 999 call is the control. They're controlling multiple assets. So there's lots. We've got now Chew Magna, Nailsea, Weston-super-Mare, and potentially Temple are water rescue, what we term mod 2+. So they are able to go in wading, although they'll wear the same kit as us. They wear a yellow helmet so that as mod 3s we know what their capabilities are, so we don't ask them to do more than they should be doing. But they can do the majority of the things that we do, with a few things that they would need the additionally trained crews to come and help with. But we've got all of those assets, so if the Chew Magna crews are deployed doing something else, they can then bring in the next closest asset to help you here. So that's the advantage of the 999 call over phoning directly here. But the thing is, if you phone somebody directly here, they will then phone control, because they have to get permission, basically, to leave the station as an emergency, because insurance and the fact that they are mobilising as the fire service, it all has to be done sort of by the book, so that they will essentially make that 999 call. Although we do it on an internal phone on a different number, it's still the same thing. It still goes through to the same recorded channel up at our control, and then they will say, yes, you can go, or no, you can't go, this is where we need you, this asset is going to cover that. So 999 for us would be the thing that we would say, but obviously you may well have contacts here anyway, and you may well get through on that number before, if other channels are blocked, then that's always an option, and then they can go on their direct dial. Okay.